Today on the Topic Show, we review Vivek Ramaswamy, Ron DeSantis, and Nikki Haley's GOP debate highlights. Vivek goes viral for response in regards to transgendering children. Gavin Newsom roasts Ron DeSantis in a quick interview. GameStop's largest investor is now their CEO, president, and chairman. You have Chico's sold for $1 billion. Lululemon and Peloton to form a partnership. And Volkswagen has an IT outage that is so bad it actually stops vehicle production. All that and much more on The Topping Show. Thank you for taking the time to tune in today. Today's episode of Topping Show is sponsored by Topping Technologies. Topping Technologies is an IT value-added reseller and services company with a special proficiency in IT security. Heck, see their founder released twice a day. Gotta say he's quite handsome and brilliant. He's me, see, that's the joke. If you're an IT leader or business owner, you can reach the team at sales@toppingtechnologies.com. Also, I know it's an ambitious goal, but we're trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of October, so if you can click that button, I would greatly appreciate it. Now, going over to the business part of the podcast, you have GameStop's largest investor is now their CEO, their president, and chairman. Specifically, this is Mr. Cohen. He was already the board chairman of the company and their largest investor. GameStop said in a statement that Cohen will not receive additional compensation for serving as its president, CEO, and chairman. Now, this comes from Cohen's holding company, RC Ventures, and they're the biggest current investor of GameStop, holding an eye-blistering 12% stake, which in regards to having one entity, one company, that's a huge percentage of owning a publicly traded company. Now, the company previously fired the previous CEO, Matt Furlong, in June earlier this year because, of course, the company wasn't really doing as well as they would hope. Now, in terms of Mr. Cohen's background, he has quite an accomplishment in terms of he built what many people regard as one of the best, most successful e-commerce platforms for dog toys and dog food called Chewy.com, which he built that company up, and then once he exited the company, I believe they sold it for a few billion to, I believe, Petco, one of the biggest legacy pet apparel. I was about to say apparel. People do actually buy apparel for pets, a ridiculous thing in and of itself, but pet food and toys and accessory company. Now, interestingly enough, the news actually letting everyone know that Cohen's going to take on additional responsibilities actually caused the stock to drop by about 1%. So, not drastic, but interesting that it actually went down in regard to him having a greater foothold in the company and taking on even more leadership opportunities. It'll be interesting to see. It's one of those issues where GameStop has gone through CEOs like clockwork. I mean, we're talking multiple CEOs, darn near one a year for quite some time. And that's usually a telltale sign that a company is in dire need of some corrections. And one of the biggest issues with GameStop, if you look at their portfolio and their history, the most profitable thing they do at GameStop is they sell used games. They very similar to most retail businesses, the amount of profit you make on a new product, like let's say for a traditional video game, you're talking maybe $1 to $2 out of a $60 video game, and there's not much value in terms of if you want the new Call of Duty 58 or whatever number they're on now, you can actually go to Target. You can go to Best Buy if you like discrimination. But it's not even a joke. They actually won't let you become a manager depending on your race. Seriously, look on the internet. So you could go to Target, you could go to Best Buy, you could go to Walmart, could go to Amazon. So if you want a new video game, you can pretty much get it anywhere. Many people view it as a commodity. It's the same exact game, just where you're getting it from. Now, the theory is GameStop has employees that are more expertise in the field, so they can give you more advice. But they're also pushing things that customers don't want, like the game passes and a bunch of other stuff, where the metrics of the employees is they have to push those things in order for them to look good, because that's what management wants them to do. Because management thought that might be a way to help turn around the company. So new video games, that's not so good. And used video games, where they make the most profit of any, and they're selling a lot of knickknacks and tchotchkes in the stores right now, and novelties, which are good short-term ideas, and maybe it'll become more of like a Spencer's gift store in the future by having video game correlated knickknacks and tchotchkes. Those are good for short-term profits in terms of, get a pretty penny for selling those knickknacks. But the used games is the big issue with GameStop, and it continues to be for a couple reasons. The biggest one being we live in a digital age. So a lot of the new video game consoles, they're able to just download video games right off the internet. Now, the biggest issue with that in terms of consumer protection and, my 3 cents of what I would prefer, granted, I prefer cartridges if I do partake in a video game. Well, if you download a video game from the internet onto your, let's say, your PlayStation, well, that video game is tied to your account. So you can't resell it like you could with a physical copy. So you actually have people trying to sell their own account. Like if you look at a used PlayStation on the eBay, they'll say like it includes these games. Well, I'll give you my info. Which again, that's not a very prudent idea because again, you have a credit card tied to your account, and you have to trust that person that they're going to give you the right password. At the end of the day, you don't really own that video game. So not only are they not buying it from a GameStop, they're buying it directly from the game store, whether it be an Xbox, Xbox store or the PlayStation store online. But the copy of the game is gone, so there's no used copies. So as physical media dwindles, that's going to be another huge issue for GameStop. And it'll be interesting to see what it will take for them to pivot. I mean, there's a strength and weakness. They used to have more stores than you could freaking count, almost more than a Starbucks, it would seem. And they consolidated some of the stores because they were so close together. Some of them were cannibalizing sales, a phenomenon in which you have two stores right next to each other, and they're actually stealing sales from each other, as opposed to being further apart, giving customers more geographical coverage. I can't help but think maybe I would suspect they should increase their services in terms of video game repair, which they do have, but it'll be interesting to see. Maybe they do some more e-commerce or e-games. They try to do used video games in terms of vintage video games, but they're not agile enough of a company to do that. If you're looking at vintage video games, we're talking about, I might date myself saying this, but you are talking games from the 90s and 2000s, and before that as well. But the issue with that is the prices of those fluctuate very, very radically. It's almost as if you're trading a collectible or a piece of artwork. There are people who actually collect video games based on the quality of the label on the cartridge. It's a whole phenomenon in and of itself. It's a whole different industry, which is why I think they subsequently exited that business idea where they attempted to get in that market. They had too many issues, so they abandoned that idea. So they are trying new things the past couple of years, which they need to. They need to find something that will help propel them to the next step of their business life cycle. And let me know in the comments, what do you think will be their next step and how could they turn things around? They certainly benefited from the meme stock in which there were so many short sellers, a phenomenon, stock market a couple of years ago, where there's so many people trying to short the stock, yet everyone actually buy it partially just for spite, and the stock went up exponentially. So I believe it was over $400 per share. So it'll be interesting to see what the long-term fate is of this Texas-based company, and I do hope and wish them the best. Thank you again for taking the time to tune in today. Again, I know it's ambitious, but we're trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of October. So if you can click that button, I'd greatly appreciate it. Also, don't forget to take the time to like and comment. Your feedback is greatly appreciated. Even if it's critical feedback, that's how we get the channel better and better. It's how I improve. Also, don't forget to take the time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe, fight the good fight.